COVID-19 has changed the way most of us have to work. We're now having to look at remote solutions, and they're imperative to help developers to be productive from wherever they are in the world. Recently, there was the announcement of Visual Studio Codespaces, a cloud-hosted development environment accessible from anywhere in the world. I'm going to have one of my colleagues here from Microsoft Australia, David Wenger, is a senior software engineer on the .NET project system, and he's going to talk to us a bit about what he's been doing with Visual Studio Codespaces. David, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to the audience?
G'day everybody. So I'm David. I would say Wenger, but that's because I'm lazy. So I work on the .NET project system team, which means that I work at sort of the intersection of .NET and Visual Studio. So the bits that run a CSproj file inside Visual Studio. And so I've been doing some stuff working and helping out with Codespaces, getting .NET Core projects to be available in Visual Studio with Codespaces. And it's got some really cool possibilities, all sorts of different scenarios that, and I've seen some of them talked about already at Build. The two that come to mind for me immediately, so most of my team is in Redmond and it's coming into summer there. And so there's a summer internship program that is starting soon. And as interns join our team, and this happens across the industry, whenever new people join the team, getting set up with your dev environment is often a 1 or 2 day task, and it's usually the first thing people are asked to do. Sometimes they're asked to update the documentation as they go, which maybe that happens, maybe not. Things like Codespaces could really help there, spinning up new environments and just speeding up that onboarding. So you could go from starting on a new team or starting in a new job to looking at, browsing, and even changing the code right from day one. The other thing that I personally like them for is, so I work on Visual Studio and most of my work is in GitHub and it's in an open source repository, and it's really cool that we can interact directly with the community. But being part of Visual Studio, I have to do a lot of work in closed source repos as well, or even just work on top of some of the big closed source repos. So the Visual Studio repository itself is about 2 gig of data once you just clone it. If you start getting some of the dependencies, that balloons out to about 6 or 7 gig. If you actually want to build anything, you're sort of looking around 30 gig of hard disk space necessary. And it's awesome that I can build all of that stuff on my work machine, but maintaining that environment is a pain if I don't do it often enough. If I come back to this, to working in that repo every month or so, then I've got to constantly be updating my environment and downloading another 30 gig of data. I've only got a 25 megabit connection, so it can take a while. So the fact that I could have a code space sort of sitting there waiting to go with all of those gobs of data I need, that's a really awesome thing.
For sure, and I think that size of repo thing is a really good one to talk about from like an Australian perspective in particular, because we don't exactly have the best internet connections down here. I think we're all sharing that 25 meg pipe that you're on. So any way that we can speed up the ability to get productive is also really key. And in my time before I joined Microsoft, I was actually working as a consultant. So the thing you were talking about there of being able to set up an environment as quickly as possible because you can just have that pre-crafted, I think is a super powerful thing to have. Onboarding new people, whether there's some new hires into your business or whether you're working with external parties, that can be fascinating. And what I've been seeing, so I've been using Codespaces, or as it was previously known, Visual Studio Online, for a little while now. I got to see it launched at Ignite last year and play around with it then. And the ability to use the dev containers approach, so something that we already had in Visual Studio Remote, to set up an environment, specify things like the dependencies that we're going to have or the extensions that we want, and recently being able to do .file support so I can import the environment that I have particularly and get it set up just the same as I've got on my laptop. And like you talked about it there as well, that it can be a real pain to constantly have to do that. If you have to pave a machine and start again and then reset up an environment, or you're just out of the office or in a remote location, you want to continue on being productive, and you just click a couple of buttons and work with the Codespaces. So yeah, it's really interesting though that that you're working from a Visual Studio standpoint, because I'm very much a JavaScript kind of person, like VS Code, Linux terminals, like that's sort of a lot of where I do. So you mentioned bringing like the Visual Studio Code experience, the .NET Core experience to Codespaces, but I also saw there's a private preview around full Visual Studio. Can you tell us a little bit about the full Visual Studio experience for VS Codespaces?
Sure. So it's currently in private preview, as you said. Codespaces sort of launched with, there's essentially, well, I shouldn't say launched with, there's three editors, essentially. There's a web-based editor, which is Visual Studio Code, but embedded in your browser. And that is an awesome way to get up and running and look around or maybe make some quick edits. But you could be on an iPad, you could be on any device, and you're there in your web browser and you start hacking away. VS Code is then, I guess, the next level of that, where you've got VS Code installed on your machine, and if it's the editor that you like to use, you connect to your Codespace, do some work, you can disconnect, connect to a different Codespace, and it's currently got the sort of more fuller featured support for a lot of these things, because it was really started with this sort of server client model, which is really where the Codespace is running in the cloud. It's the server hosting all this thing, but you're running VS Code locally, and it's just your thin client. Visual Studio obviously has a 20-year legacy of being a thick client, a Windows application, and so the whole division really that I work in has been doing a bunch of work to start to make more of those server client type relationships within Visual Studio. Some of them already existed, because there's a lot of work is done out of process in Visual Studio. So the actual editor the window you're looking at is not the thing that runs your build, for example. That happens in a different process. So some of that stuff, some of that communication was already there, but enabling it over the internet is obviously a big part of things. So specifically the work I've been doing is things like, so for example, I own the feature where you can edit CS project files inside Visual Studio without unloading the project. So double clicking to edit Visual Studio, that sort of thing. That currently, or at least a few months ago, worked by watching which windows you open in Visual Studio, and if it was a project file, it would stop a bunch of things from happening so that as you type and as your XML gets invalid, we don't crash. That watching windows doesn't work in a Codespace scenario because, of course, this code is running on a server and there aren't any windows opening. So little things like that, where splitting that logic into two, writing a service in the middle for them to communicate, it's a really interesting way of sort of approaching, or not, it's an interesting way of having to rethink your code and your components, because you've really got to think about how are these things going to communicate? What are they going to say? You've got to think about, you mentioned internet connections. You've got to think about how much latency and things you require. You don't want a service that chats too much, etc. So it's sort of really peeling apart these layers into separate pieces. It's something that VS Code had a little bit of a head start on. But it's something that everyone in DevDiv is working really hard at.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that VS Code had a head start of it. That's the advantage of being a newer product, not the larger 20-year-old code base that is behind Visual Studio. And yes. I've used Visual Studio pretty much my entire development career when I've been doing the .NET side of things. So I can very much appreciate the challenge that you've got in taking that into this more online model and doing that sort of disconnected communications that you're talking about there. Now, again, and the thing that I keep going back to when I'm looking to set up Codespaces is this idea of personalization. I mentioned it before that you can bring in your dot files. I can set up my terminal with as much crazy stuff that I want running in the background and things like that. Now, I also am aware that we've recently announced preview support around the Windows containers to run our Visual Studio Codespaces in not just Linux containers. Are we able to do a level of personalization? So if I'm a Windows developer working on a .NET project or something like that, I can get that similar sort of feel that I would have to working locally, even if I'm just running everything through our Codespace, even if it's just while in the browser?
Yeah, the feeling of using Codespaces, if you're using a Windows Codespace, it's very much a feeling of using a virtual machine. You're not remoted into the machine, so it's much faster to use. But you get a terminal inside Visual Studio. You can install whatever things you need. You mentioned dev containers. So a dev container is a special file called devcontainer.json, where you can define things you want your code space to have. And when it gets spun up, when it gets created, those things will be brought in. So they could be Visual Studio setup components, they could be third-party tools. And so your code space, you define what you want it to have, and you can think of it as though you have this little private virtual machine sitting in the cloud waiting for you to connect. And then when you connect to it, you've also got this .files repository, which then brings in your personalization. So it's a little bit of a mix of customizations for you versus customizations for the project. But the actual dev container, so the actual code space on a Windows image actually comes with a bunch of stuff already. It even actually comes with SQL Server Developer Edition. So even things like database apps and things, if you want to do development, and if you want to, especially if you've got, like, let's say you're using Entity Framework and you've got a bunch of test data and you're running these tests, like that stuff will all work on Codespaces just as it would on your local machine. But of course, the key being you're not using your local machine's resources, and you don't need to have your local machine set up. If you have the luxury of working in one project for most of your development life or work, then that's probably not a huge win necessarily. But if you're switching around between projects, sometimes you have conflicting things. So it can be really nice to have separate code spaces for those. I remember a couple of years ago, I was working on a project where if I wanted to work on this specific project, I needed a very specific version of Node installed. And if I wanted to work on this other project, it needed a slightly newer version. And that was always frustrating to juggle. So the fact that I could just have multiple code spaces set up would be a real win there. So there's all sorts of little benefits around environments that you kind of, I think, you kind of don't think of as a normal dev. You know, I mean, personally, I treat my dev box as like it's sacred and I only install what I want. But we sometimes don't get to choose that, right? Because if we have to work on this project, then we need its dependencies. So the fact that I can specify them, I can, you know, not have them pollute each other and not necessarily have them on my dev machine, I think is really cool.
And that's a great point. I treat my dev boxes very much the same way as you're talking about there. I set up the things that I need for the work that I'm going to be doing, but every now and then, you know, you find a bug in an open source project, you're like, I want to work out how the best way I can contribute to that. So then I'm pulling it down and it's like, it wants, you know, a Node version 7 because they're still very out of date and they should have upgraded support from a long time ago, or you know, they expect you to have like 15 things installed as global executables. And you're like, well, how much do I really want to be able to contribute to that? Because now it's really shifting the way that my machine should be set up. And I think that's where Codespaces can really help out. I saw that GitHub recently announced Codespaces built in to the GitHub environment so that you can click clone straight into a code space, and then you can start working in there. And it's actually the same sort of thing that we're talking about here with the Visual Studio code spaces, but it's built in with the GitHub infrastructure and has a very seamless integration with GitHub, which I think is going to be a great opportunity for people that are wanting to help out with broader open source projects, and that you can set up a dev container that says, here's all the things that you're going to have installed to do it. But don't worry, you're not going to have to click 15 installers, or you've got to run this script that's going to download stuff randomly off the internet. And you're like, do I trust it? Nope, we've got it all cut out for you. It's an environment that you can set up. But it was also really interesting to hear you talking about the SQL stuff that's also in the Windows dev containers. That was something I didn't know about, and it's always a pain because if you're doing something in a code space, it's remote. Like it's not physically connected to your machine. So how do you connect with a database that you've got, or a cache like Redis and things like that? But it's also got me wondering, well, what if I'm building a web application? It's going to run some ports that I need access to, or if a socket application or whatever it is. How do we do that if I'm used to just a localhost and I click a localhost link, but this thing is now in the cloud, wherever that would be? So how do we do things that are working with our local host, our port access, and stuff like that?
Yeah, so that's one of the more magic looking things of Codespaces, and it kind of goes back to where I said you've got to think about which bits need to run on the server and the client. Well, all of our teams have been thinking about that. And so in a code space, if you're using Visual Studio or Visual Studio Code, you can debug your web apps, and you do just go to localhost, and it's all just forwarded through this tunnel. Basically, when you connect up with Codespaces, it forms a tunnel. It remaps that port of localhost onto whatever port it is on the Codespace, and it works just like normal. Same thing with debugging. There is already plenty of remote debugging protocols, and there's protocols for like IntelliSense and that sort of thing. And Visual Studio Code leverages a lot of these just because of the nature of how it works. It's a JavaScript, Electron front end, and if you're writing .NET, well, there's got to be a .NET back end somewhere providing that information. So all of that stuff is sort of set up for you via the sort of initial negotiation as it connects, sets up all these tunnels, and everything just works like magic. It's really amazing to see. The thing that I guess, well, I'm trying to think how to explain this, but the thing that is the other way to think about this is if you've ever used LiveShare. Codespace is very similar to LiveShare, or at least using LiveShare, and it's just that at the other end, instead of a person, it's just a machine hosting Visual Studio or VS Code, and you're the only one using it. Although you can actually use LiveShare and Codespaces, which maybe gets confusing. But so all those things that LiveShare have enabled, like debugging and like the running the port forwarding, etc., they're all available in Codespaces too. So really, the experience should be very similar to local dev, and certainly as more and more features get built out to support Codespaces, I think you'll start to see the gaps reduce, even more.
Yeah, and that's fascinating. I have never worked on something quite as complex as a backend as that, but I have a lot of respect for the people that are building that sort of thing, because every time I look at it, I'm like, wow, it's making me really rethink the way that we would build an application when you're dealing with these levels of complexity of that I can click a link that says localhost, but all of a sudden it's not a localhost link, and the machine that it's running on is somewhere else in the cloud. Which again, like I said, it kind of blows my mind that is the approach that we can do with it. Now, something else that I think is really cool about Codespaces, and it's only I think it's a new feature, but again, it's probably because I haven't looked too hard, is that we can actually do bring your own dev box to it. So we've got the ability to stand up your own environment as a Codespace by clicking a couple of buttons or forking a repository that has a dev containers.json in it so that we can set it up with those environments. But this idea of being able to turn any virtual machine or any physical machine even potentially into a remote host for Codespaces is really fascinating. And it's just a command line tool. We can type in a couple of commands to it, and it's like, hang on a sec, I could connect to a machine just running in another cloud or in my home office and have that power there as well.
Yeah, I think
is that something coming from your side as well, the Visual Studio experience?
I this is where it gets tricky for me, because so I'm trying very hard not to say the code name for what Codespaces was, because that's how I've been referring to it for months. I'm not entirely sure if that sort of thing is coming, but I believe it's at least on the roadmap or on the nice to have list. But yeah, Visual Studio Support is currently in private preview. So whilst we do encourage everybody who wants to try it out to join the private preview, there is a form you have to fill in, and basically it's a matter of certain scenarios work at the moment and certain scenarios don't work. And so that form sort of guides you through what types of workloads you need as to whether these things are going to work. I think bring your own compute is a really compelling use case, though, for a lot of businesses that might have some on-premise system that they want to connect to. So, I mentioned the SQL Server Developer Editions on the Windows image. That's cool if you're, need to connect to a server, but how do you get your data there? If you have huge amounts of test data that is not easily set up on a new environment, you might not want to do that. So if you can bring your own compute, even if you don't have some highly customized environment for that compute, just the fact that you could control the networking so it can see your other resources might be interesting. I haven't personally played with that sort of thing yet, but definitely interesting times ahead. Yeah,
it's something I've been playing around with in the last couple of weeks, because I I saw it in the portal one day and I was like, oh, what could I do here? And I've got some virtual machines lying around. I'm like, oh, I type in a couple of commands and then they just pop up in Codespace immediately for me. And I'm like, I didn't expect it to actually be as seamless as it was. That I've got these machines that, trust me, they're not production environments with production web servers on them that I'm just like, hey, I can turn that into a Codespace. I'm definitely not encouraging anyone to do that. We code and use a CI/CD pipeline to push things out. And we're not just live code in production. It's not the Wild West here. But yeah. I think it's an exciting time to be a developer, whether you're building thick client applications and you're looking for a way to be in a more portable environment, or working with code bases that are, might be CPU intensive to compile or have long duration builds, or just simply put, bigger than you want to download onto your machine continuously. And Codespace is a really compelling option for that. Or if you want to be able to easily contribute to an open source project, or you're an open source maintainer and you want to make it easy for someone else to come and contribute, being able to set that up, pop in a couple of config files, and then just have the ability for someone to click clone into Codespaces and have the development environment that you're hoping them to have. Again, I think it's a really powerful way that we can set up people for success in this new world of remote working, where we're all trying to find our feet and figure out what's the best way to go ahead. Is there any final thoughts that you've got around Codespaces, or interesting things you want to share with the audience before we wrap up today?
I think you just made me think of one interesting scenario that I talked about the other day that I think is really compelling, especially for the situation we're in now, is remote sort of classroom style. So you can set up a code space and then allow people to connect to it via live share. But of course, you don't have to be on a powerful machine to do this. So you could have, in a sort of an education scenario, you could have a code space set up for running a classroom or something like that. So you can show people around the code base, etc. I think some of those scenarios are going to start to become very interesting as you say, everyone's remote working. But the other thing, one of the huge things for me is, like you said, the contributing to open source, because certainly in the past, I have been tripped up a number of times. I'm not very good at reading the contributing.md of repos, or at least remembering to. So I will just clone down a repo, open up Visual Studio, and then a lot of the times, nothing works. And it's usually a simple matter of, you've got to run this batch file first, or you might have to run this batch file, but specifically from a developer command prompt or whatever. And just not having to remember that, to be able to say, I want a code space with this repo, and know that once that's spun up, everything will just work. I think that's really interesting as well. And I think I would love to see this sort of drive more open source contributions, because that's certainly something that I'm interested in. As someone who works in an open source repo, I think that's got huge potential.
Yeah, it's really exciting times, and like that education side of things, I think helps us reshape the way that we've thought about being able to contribute. I've definitely seen videos of people that are using like an iPad to VS Codespaces in the browser, and that's their development environment. And I could imagine that in years gone by at Build, where we'd be sitting here and going, oh yeah, in the future you'll be using an iPad to code in the cloud to contribute to the .NET framework, and people would have looked at you and said, I think you're pretty mad suggesting that. But it's the reality, and we just want to make sure that people have the tools to be as successful as they can on whatever devices and platforms are going to be the best for them. Thank you for joining us today, David. It's been great hearing about Codespaces, particularly from the side of someone who is doing a lot more Windows-centric development and .NET development, whereas I've been looking at it very much from that Visual Studio Code, JavaScript, web development side of things. It's a fantastic time to be a developer, and I was really excited to have you on the show today to have a chat. But I'm going to say one thing before you go. That is going to be the coolest Lego collection I have ever seen in someone's home office. And I think it's a really awesome thing that we're doing with Build Live here, is that we can see everyone's home office and where they're watching or where they're chatting with us as a guest. But yeah, that is a really cool set of Lego. It puts my sets at home to shame. I got to say that for sure.
It's been nice being able to show them off.
Exactly. So yeah, thank you for being on the show. I hope you have a good rest of Build, and we look forward to hearing more about what we can do with Visual Studio Codespaces going forward.
Thank you.
Now, I also want to just do one more pitch around Codespaces. I've got a session tomorrow afternoon Australian time. I think it's at 6:15 tomorrow evening or 5:45. I forget. Times are hard. Where are we looking at the Visual Studio remote options? And one of those is going to be Visual Studio Codespaces. So remember to register at register.build.microsoft.com. Pop that in your schedule builder, and you can see more of me on screen, which I'm sure everyone wants. And just in general, using the online, being a registered member of Microsoft Build allows you to interact with us on the chat, ask us questions, particularly in like sessions like this where we've got guests and experts on particular products. I might not have the answers, but they surely will. Up next, we're going to have a short video from some of our community and highlight some of the great work that they are doing. And then we'll be back with Rick and Sonia to talk a bit about what's happening around the social media and what's happening over in Redmond.
Hi, my name is Thomas Maurer and I'm a cloud advocate working at Microsoft. I often get asked by people, Thomas, how do I start a technical blog? And let me answer this with first, why would you actually start a blog? And when I look at this, a blog can really be helpful in a number of certain ways. It can really make you part of the community. So you will write about topics you're interested in, and then you will find others which are also interested in the same topics and challenges, and they can build up those relationships and learn from each other. And this will also bring you into probably programs like the MVP program, or it can even help you to land a new job. Because when companies or recruiters are looking at your blog, they can actually find out, hey, what is this person actually doing? What is their level of knowledge? And it actually can make a good impression out there. Now, how do I get started? Now, to get started is actually very simple, right? You build up your blog and you start blogging. However, when I started blogging, I was thinking, hey, this is my personal notebook, right? So I started about things I'm passionate about, things like daily challenges I had, which I solved, I was writing down, so I could share them with my coworkers and colleagues. So when they had the same issue, when it comes to managing different systems or fixing certain bugs, they could go out and leverage that knowledge. And I think that's one of the great ways to start. Make sure that you actually find something you're passionate about, right? It's very difficult to start writing about things you don't care. So make sure you actually find something you're passionate about it, write about it, and don't be afraid if someone already has written about it, right? Sometimes writing in your own words, first of all, helps yourself to remember the topics and the solutions, but also maybe other people like your words better than what others have written, right? Maybe you add more pictures, more graphic styles to it, and that can be very, very helpful for a lot of people. The second thing, and I think the most important thing I recommend to everyone, is keep it consistent, right? Make sure you can actually blog basically every week or every second week or twice a week, whatever schedule you have for yourself, right? I have seen many people, they were super passionate about starting a blog. They went out there, they started writing, but at one point they just stopped. After 2-3 months, they decided, okay, I may be back in a couple of months. And so this is not a good experience. This is not something you will hang on into. So make sure you set yourself a goal, let's say 1 blog post a week, 2 blog posts a week, and try to hit these goals as much as you can. So I hope this was helpful. If you have more questions, reach out to me and enjoy the rest of the show.